I want to thank all of you for coming to our meeting tonight. And I have a few little things to remind you about before we start. First of all, if you are not a member of the Hilton Neighborhood Association and you would like to become one, we have membership forms in the back. And being that it's almost October, if you join now, your membership will be good in the year 2019. Isn't that great? The next thing is we also have a community concerns box in the back. If you have some concern that you would like us to submit to the township, our community concern person extraordinaire is Jeff Boehner. We have a little box in the back, and you can put your form in. If you want to be anonymous, that's fine. If you'd like to get a response, you could put your name and telephone number or email. Our next meeting will be October 18th, which is a Thursday. We usually meet on the third Thursday of every month. And it will be in the DeHart Center, which is our regular meeting place. I want to thank all the people in the Hilton Neighborhood Association who worked hard for Porch Fest. Porch Fest was a big success again. And we're very happy to have such a wonderful event take place in our sweet neighborhood. So it was very hot, and the members went around and put the doorknob reminders. We donated to the cause, and I want to thank everyone for that. We're not in the DeHart Center tonight, but there's something very exciting has happened through the work of Patricia Tunstall and some other piano teachers. They have purchased a beautiful baby grand, not baby, I think it's a big grand piano. The piano that was there before was not very good anymore. This one is wonderful, and it's opened up a new area for the Hilton and DeHart Center. Last week there was a jazz performance by
Rosanna Sportiello and Harry Allen.
Right, and a very good drummer and bass player also. And it was really top notch. And we, coming up, I think it's
October 7th.
October 7th, the piano teachers of Maplewood who want to use that room again for their piano recitals with their students, which is what they used to do years ago. The piano teachers are going to give a recital. It's on a Sunday, and it starts at 4 p.m. So there are lots of things going on. We are hoping at some point to have a voter registration table somewhere in the Hilton neighborhood. We tried to have it in front of Walgreens, but we were told that you have to get permission of the store owners, and the owners of Walgreens say it's against their rules or something. So we're working on that, but if there's anyone here who would like to sit with us and intrigue people, we have the forms. All they have to do is fill it out. We'll even mail it, but we all know how important it is to get people to vote, and especially the young people. So if you're interested in that, see me later. We're not sure now that we thought that Walgreens spot would be excellent, but it petered out. So Jeff is going to work on some other places. Okay. We're going to have our candidates form a little bit different tonight. We've just asked each candidate to present themselves so that you can meet them, and then we will have a question and answer period. We have, Nancy Adams, who many of you know, Ileana Castillo, and Greg. So this is what we hope that each candidate will discuss. What are your strengths? And why are you running for office now? Also, there are about 4 things. What do you see as important goals for Maplewood? And how would you work to achieve them? So let me just say that one more time, because I have told candidates that they're going to discuss their strengths, their reasons for running for office, their goals for Maplewood, and how they would achieve them, and anything else, of course, that you want to add. And then we will be open for question and answer, so I hope some of you will have some piercing questions. So we'll start, as I always say, I'm a librarian. We work in alphabetical order, so we start with Nancy Adams. Thank you.
Thank you. I was always first by height and by alphabetical. Good evening, everybody. And thank you, Carol Buchanan and the Hilton Neighborhood Association for organizing this forum. Thank you to all of you who came out tonight to learn more about the candidates running for Maplewood Township Committee. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Nancy Adams, and I'm serving my 3rd year in my first term on the Township Committee. I had the honor of serving as Deputy Mayor for my first 2 years in office. I moved to Maplewood in 1989 with my family, including 3 young children. Understanding that a community is created by those who participate in it, I began to volunteer my service and my community activism from the living room of my home in College Hill. I quickly became a volunteer at my children's school and revised the in-school theater so that students could have the educational opportunities in the arts. Near my home, I saw a very neglected business district of Springfield Avenue. Recognizing the opportunity to do something beneficial for our town, I advocated for its revitalization. As a volunteer, I co-founded College Hill Neighborhood Association and the Springfield Avenue Partnership. Selected as a member of the Planning Board by Mayor DeLuca, for 12 years I have had the privilege to work to protect the town's development by advocating for good design of projects, which is an important part in preserving the look and the flavor of Maplewood. As your Township Committee woman, I have approached my responsibilities with the same commitment to and vision of our community as I did as a volunteering resident. When I identify an issue or am made aware of an issue by a resident that impedes our quality of life or is antithetical to the values of Maplewood stands for, I work to address it. I do not hesitate to take on difficult issues, as my track record has shown, even if they may be unpopular with some or not politically advantageous for me. Meeting residents, speaking with and listening to people from our community who stand up to participate in our community dialogue is perhaps one of my favorite parts of serving as your committee woman. Issues that impact our quality of life, the environment, public safety, governance, and the preservation of Maplewood's uniqueness are vitally important to me and the sum of the primary initiatives that I have focused on. As chair of the Engineering, Public Works, and Planning Committee, I've successfully advocated for the replenishment of our town trees and the maintenance of our parks. I have worked to improve pedestrian safety in our business districts, and I have brought my experienced, common sense voice to traffic calming issues in our neighborhoods. I have been vigilant in the enforcement of the gas-powered leaf blower ban because I believe that they are bad for our environment, our health and the health of our children, and our ability to work or relax in our homes in peace. Professionally, I've worked in downtown revitalization, redevelopment, and management for over 22 years. I bring to the Township Economic Development Committee the expertise gleaned from my work in South Orange, West Orange, Newark, Red Bank, and now Summit, and as a consultant in downtown redevelopment, and as an accredited downtown management professional, board member of Downtown New Jersey, and a licensed real estate professional. As a Township Committee member, besides the Engineering Public Works Committee and the Planning Board, I've served on the Maplewood Village Alliance Board, Environmental Advisory Committee, Memorial Park Conservancy, Open Space Trust Fund, Board of Health, and Code Enforcement Committee. All of us on the Township Committee have worked extremely hard restructuring and strengthening our police department and creating a community policing board, and traversing the challenging process of hiring new department heads, including a new police chief, deputy chief, business administrator, CFO, recreation director, construction code official, and engineer. The opportunity of this, though, has given us the chance to reshape departments and enabled us to focus closely on service and communication to our residents. Of special note is our program to expand our senior services, including the acquisition of this building with open space funds and the merging of the Maplewood South Orange Fire Departments to provide more efficient emergency services to our community while reducing costs. I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues on the Township Committee to maintain our great quality of life, to continue to provide the best and most economical services to all our community, to protect our environment, and address issues that impact Maplewood. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 6th. Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. Liana?
Oh, good evening, everyone. I'm going to apologize up front because I am super nervous. I was super nervous when I thought the idea of running, and now debating, I'm even double nervous. So if I stutter or something, help me out here. I know a lot of people don't know me. I'm the new girl. So I'm going to briefly a background of who I am. I was born in New York, and I was raised by two amazing mothers. They're both are from the Dominican Republic. At the age of 5, my mom, who was a doctor, she decided to retire early to the Dominican Republic to take care of her parents, which were not very good in health. So we flew back to DR, and she put me in American school, so I didn't lose my English and my culture. I was raised there until I finished college. I'm in architecture for 5 years, and I did different studies in Europe and United States, but I fell in love, so I didn't really finish it. So it happens, I fell in love, and but unfortunately it didn't work out, so I moved to New Jersey, where my cousin lived. It's like, let me start fresh, and I met a person that was raised in Maplewood and introduced me to Maplewood, and I'm like, okay, this is where I'm definitely going to sit here and have a family. I fell in love. So we had two kids. I got 2 daughters. They're currently going to Tuscan school. The father and I, things didn't work out, but I'm a single mom now, which I'm doing great. And now here I am running for town council. Now the question, why am I running for township committee? I really had a long list, but someone said, just talk and follow your heart, so I'm definitely going to do that. One of the reasons I wanted to run for township committee is because I have the passion and the willing to help the community. I feel I can give so much, which I have volunteered in so many things, book fairs, parties, fundraisers, things that a lot of people don't even know, because I like to be that people person to help people. And I think that me being in the town committee, I just want to answer to the residents. I will be your voice. Even if I don't like it, even if I don't agree it, that's my duty to respond to you, go to the committee, raise it, and work with you. My strength, which is that I am dedicated. I want results, and like I said, I'm a passionate person, very perfectionist. When I said I'm going to do something, I just go at it like old mama bear, and I will go until the end for it. And the other one, how to achieve it, which is a really good question. I would like to work with my fellow, if I win, work with the township committee and work with them, work with the residents to achieve everything that I would like for Maplewood. I mean, Maplewood's going through a good road, and me there, I think we could do it you know, continue doing it and probably come with fresh ideas and make it better. That's where I stand. Thank you.
And Greg.
Thank you, Carol. So I also want to thank Carol with the Hilton Neighborhood Association for having this event and bringing us all here tonight. And I want to thank all of you for coming out, taking enough an interest in our community to meet the candidates and hear our ideas before casting your vote in this important election coming up in less than 6 weeks. My name is Greg Lembrick. I am seeking my second term on the Maplewood Township Committee. Along with my running mate Nancy Adams, we are the Democratic candidates in this election. I have lived here in Maplewood now for almost 12 years. I live with my wife, Alex, who's a professor at Columbia Law School and also the co-director of the group Stand Up Girls, which is doing great work with young women here in Maplewood and South Orange, and my daughter, Caroline, who we call Cece, who's 7 years old and a second grader at Marshall and probably finishing up swim practice as we speak. In terms of my strengths, I'd like to talk about what I've done over the last nearly 3 years on the Township Committee. And I preface all of this by saying that it truly has been a team effort. There's a lot of collaboration that goes on the Township Committee. Dean Daffis, who just joined us this year, our Deputy Mayor Frank McGee, he is here obviously. Nancy Adams is up here as my running mate, and Mayor Vic DeLuca, and also the Township Committee members that I've had the privilege to work with over the last few years, Marlon Brownlee and India Larrier, and Ian Broadman, who can forget. So I want to talk about what we've done over the last 3 years. The most challenging period, the most challenging event for the last 3 years, it will probably come as no surprise to any of you in this room, was the night of July 5th, 2016. And since then, we have worked very hard to reform the culture of the Maplewood Police Department in the wake of that incident. And in fact, after that incident took place 2 years ago, I was very insistent that I wanted to be on the Public Safety Committee and chair the Public Safety Committee the following year and this year, knowing the important issues that were going to be dealt with in the police. During that time, we've replaced the leadership. We have a new chief. We've created a deputy chief position. Deputy Chief Sally just took office this year, and he's the highest ranking African-American officer in our department's history. Captain Kish is now leading our training efforts and internal affairs. On that note, we have increased and improved training for our police officers, particularly in the areas of anti-bias, de-escalation, crowd control, and alternatives to the use of force. We're working through the process of restoring confidence and rebuilding trust with the community and our law enforcement. This includes more engagement with residents and community groups, creating a community services bureau within our department, open gyms, restoration of the Junior Police Academy, and more to outreach to the community. As Nancy mentioned, we're also in the process of, and just had interviews last night of many candidates for the Community Board on Police. This is a group of residents who are going to be able to review data and procedures, make recommendations for new policies and changes to existing procedures, research and help develop best practices for our police department, and also help to convey the community's feedback to the police department. I'm also proud of the fact that while all this has been going on, we've continued to reduce crime and make our community safer. Just a few examples. This year, robbery is down 17%, assault is down 73%, burglary is down 42%, and overall crime down 8%. We've also worked very hard in response to community concerns about traffic and pedestrian safety. And we've done this using the 3 E's: engineering, education, and enforcement. We've taken measures to improve traffic flow around town, put up new and improved signage, calm traffic in areas where speeding is a problem, and we're looking to do more to make our streets safer. With the police department, we've implemented programs to help drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians learn to be safer, be more aware, and share the road. And we've created a new dedicated traffic unit for the first time in the Maplewood Police Department under the leadership of Sergeant Reeves. We've seen a significant increase in enforcement over the last few months. Traffic patrols, radar details. The first 10 weeks of that program, they issued 959 summonses around town, which is certainly a record for as long as I've seen the statistics. And the emphasis has been on certain key areas of town, including some that impact the Hilton neighborhood. Springfield Avenue, Burnett, particularly people who are speeding coming through Union and then don't stop when they don't slow down when they come into Maplewood, and on Prospect, where speeding is always an issue. I've also worked hard to improve our recreation programs, our culture facilities, and our town pool during my 3 years in Township Committee. Our new recreation director has greatly expanded our sports and fitness offerings for all ages. She's really brought more energy and imagination, and it's been great to work with her on that. For example, the kids camp that runs here at DeHart is significantly improved in the last few years, and we're seeing the results. Registration was up 42% this past summer from 2017. The Woodland has again become a centerpiece of our community's social, cultural, and artistic life. It's a beautiful and bustling facility that's only getting better. And the pool 3 years ago was consistently, it was bleeding members and bleeding money every year, losing money, membership declining, but we've stabilized it on both fronts over the last few years through some better management. Membership has remained steady over the past 2 seasons. Overall revenues this year were up 10% from last year. That's the first revenue increase we've seen in a very long time at the pool. We've extended programming. We had better food this summer, thanks to Freeman's. And we're really working hard to preserve this gem in our town, because if it continued to lose members and lose money, it was not going to be sustainable to maintain. Nancy and I in particular have worked hard in our turn to make local government more accessible. We're proud to be the most responsive township committee in history. We place a very high priority on communication, transparency, and accountability. We're out in the community, we're attending events, community meetings, neighborhood gatherings. We put together a new township website. We've made it easier to conduct all your business with the township, to download and submit forms, make payments online, etc. We've increased our use of social media a lot. Very responsive, following local message groups and boards, and getting tagged a lot whenever issues come up, and being able to respond in real time. We've also improved our email alerts to distribute information and build awareness in the community. We've created a new senior advisory committee and a youth advisory committee over the last few years, and that's going to help improve generational diversity and incorporate that into our township planning and decision making. As Nancy mentioned, hiring is also a huge part of what we do on the township committee. We're part-time elected officials. We're not at town hall from 9 to 5 every day. We're out with the police in the field. So we need to hire the department heads and the leaders who are going to run the departments and serve our residents. And we've done a lot of it in the last 3 years. As Nancy mentioned, we've replaced seemingly every top position: township administrator, assistant township administrator, CFO, police chief, engineer, recreation director, welfare director, the list goes on. We've also appointed a larger, broader, and more diverse range of residents to town boards and committees, and made it easier for residents to get involved in town. Finally, we can't forget that we purchased and rehabbed this wonderful building that we're in right now as a home for our Maplewood seniors. This allows us to offer more programming and more activities without conflicting with events over at DeHart, particularly during the kids' camp in the summer, where there just wasn't enough room for everyone. And this also just provides a place for seniors to drop in and to call their own. One of my big goals when I was elected 3 years ago was to improve and increase communication and coordination with the Board of Education in the school district. I think the relationship 3 years ago was bordering on dysfunction. And we have restored the monthly meetings between the town leaders of Maplewood and South Orange, the superintendent, and members of the Board of Ed. This has helped to really improve relationships and our ability to plan and work together. We've really renewed our commitment to partnering. We collaborated on establishing a field trust where we collect user fees, and that money goes to big projects, extraordinary maintenance and long-term improvement of our fields and athletic facilities, whether they're owned by Maplewood, by South Orange, or by the school district. Because when you or your kids are out there playing, you're not necessarily thinking about who owns the field, who's responsible for cutting the grass. You're just thinking, this is my local field. So we're working together on that. And we've also worked with the Board of Education to successfully lobby for substantially increased state aid for our school district after years of cuts. And last year, we were able to obtain $484,000 more than the year before. That was a huge increase. We've worked to support local businesses and business districts, including several new businesses right along Springfield Avenue, wonderful art projects and murals around town, programming at the Hilton Library, at the Gazebo, in Maple Crest and DeHart Parks. We're very excited about the new SAM marketing for Springfield Avenue and Maplewood, as well as the expanded and improved farmers market on Springfield Avenue. Nancy and I and our colleagues have also continued Maplewood's proud tradition of being a leader in the environment and sustainability. We've achieved Sustainable Jersey Silver status, which is the highest status currently available. We have a very active green team and environmental advisory committee. We've expanded solar power opportunities for our residents. And I think the most exciting thing that's happened is Maplewood has been designated to serve as the lead agency of a Sustainable Essex Alliance energy aggregation program, and that's going to support clean, renewable energy. We're going to be pooling our purchasing and negotiating power with other municipalities to get better energy pricing and greater sustainability. So we're going to lower electric bills, but also decrease our impact on the environment. And finally, and I think really important to me in the climate that we're in right now in this country, we have supported and defended Maplewood's progressive values. We've stood up for our principles in an age when they've been increasingly under attack from Washington. We've supported diversity, inclusion, and integration in our community. We've helped lead the charge to make Maplewood a welcoming community. On guns, on health care, immigration, and other issues, we've taken and will continue to take positions of moral leadership. And we will stand up for our Haitian and Latino neighbors and support the LGBTQ community here in Maplewood and beyond. In terms of why I'm running and my goals, maybe I'll save that.
Okay. I think we got the idea now.
Okay.
Thank you very much, all of you. And now I hope that we have some questions. You can direct your questions to everyone or to someone in particular if you like. Yes, thank you.
I wanted to direct mine to Ileana. I saw you active in Memorial Park over one of the weekends that we had all these wonderful things going on in the park, but you didn't talk about it here. Could you tell us what committees you've been working with? I think you're on the 4th of July committee and such.
Absolutely.
That kind of thing.
Sorry, my nurses and my just flew
okay.
a lot of info. Yes, I work for the 4th of July committee with the Maplewood Association and Civic Association, I'm sorry. And been working with them for now 2 years. And the day you saw me was I was promoting, doing face painting, promoting the 4th of July event on the Pride Festival. I am part also the PTA of Tuscan. I am part of the book fair, volunteer for the book fair for the Maplewood Halloween party. There's one coming up now. I have done a few fundraisers. They're not big but just small fundraisers for residents that needed help at the moment or they wanted my help. different causes, fundraising for different causes as well. Let's see. I've done others, but the other ones have been in South Orange. I just go back and forth with South Orange with volunteering, but that's pretty much
Thank you.
volunteering and being part of a committee.
Thank you, and thanks for asking that. Come on, folks, we need some hands up. Okay.
Nancy Adams. As a member of the planning board in the past, what's your feeling on the building that's proposed, the apartment building proposed for Springfield Avenue and Wellesley Street?
Springfield Avenue and
Wellesley. On your side, on the College Hill side.
You mean at the corner of Yale?
Now at the corner of Wellesley, there's a proposal for a large apartment building that's going to require a variance.
Right, that's going before the Board of Adjustment, I believe.
I'm not sure.
If it's going for a bulk use variance, it's
Mhm.
probably going for the Board of Adjustment. But if it hasn't come between us on the planning board yet.
Okay.
But I don't know a whole lot about it. I try not to look at social media posts about projects coming before the planning board, just like when I ran 3 years ago.
Must be hard to miss, right?
Well, luckily I'm so busy, I don't yeah, unless somebody tags me, I pretty much don't
Right.
look too much. But just like when I ran last time, I tried to stay as neutral as possible on the post office site because I knew I had to
Right.
listen to the testimony and see the presentation and then form my opinion that way. So,
Did you have anything you wanted to add about Springfield and Yale?
well, Springfield and Yale just came before us just as a preliminary informal presentation to get feedback from the planning board, and it hasn't been a formal presentation yet either. Originally, it was approved for a mirror of the building on the other corner, and then there are some environmental issues where bumper to bumper used to be, so
Right.
they haven't figured out exactly what they're going to do there. They did show us something on Economic Development Committee as well, and so I think they're revising based on comments they received, and then coming back with something. I'd rather see something there than an empty lot. Yeah.
Someone else.
I wanted to ask about anyone can respond about the recycling and the recent pullback of the materials that are acceptable and recycled. You know, our town was so terrific. I used to brag to my friends in other towns and states how they take everything. You know, they take 1 through 7 and all that, and now we're kind of backwards. So
Yeah.
What do you take that, Nancy?
Okay. We just had a workshop on Tuesday evening and a morning one for the business community to make everybody aware of the changes to recycling. Unfortunately, it's going to start costing us a lot more money to recycle. I'm a proponent of reusing and trying as best we can to not buy single-use products, not use single-use shopping bags, not use plastics that can't get recycled. And the real issue with regard to not having be able to recycle any more than numbers 1 and 2 is because our end user is no longer taking those. So since that's the end user we use, we go out to bid for that, and its proximity makes a big difference in how much the price is for where we send our recycling, and that one's in Newark, so it's most commonly used around here. But they are no longer accepting anything above number 1 and 2 in plastics. So our workshop the other day, and we had quite the lively little video that was impromptu at the end. If I had known, I would have dressed better, but it was fun, and it's really just, you can find it on Facebook. It's really a good way to find out what, rather than reading a flyer. But the website, our website, Maplewood Township website, has a lot of information on what can and can't be recycled. And the biggest problem also right now is contamination, and that's where we're getting hit with fines. So if people are recycling things that are no longer accepted, or people are recycling plastic bags in the recycling, they'll no longer be taken, but if things are dirty. So you really have to clean out all your, whatever you can recycle, glass, plastic, otherwise it contaminates the whole batch and then we get fined So we're trying really hard to educate the community because this is going to be a hit for us as far as our budget goes. You want to add anything?
I was just going to support that. There's a lot of market forces that that go way beyond Maplewood or even New Jersey. In terms of China no longer taking plastics and all that. So a lot of this is sort of unfortunately sort of step backs nationally and globally that are sort of trickling down to us, and there's not much we can do if we can't send it anywhere that will take it, and we certainly can't. They won't take it at a reasonable price. Our hands are tied.
I understand that, but as a follow-up, aside from how awful it is for the environment, we're producing more garbage, so soon our garbage haulers will be probably increasing because we're going to be having much more garbage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, Liliana, do you want to?
Liliana, did you want to say that?
No, learning as you guys. Like the residents too.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Hey Nancy, this question is for both of you. The recent idea about pass-through surcharge for plastic bags and paper bags, and how that's going to affect the local businesses. I want to see where both of you stand on that, please.
I don't agree with charging with the bags. I think already the residents have so many burden with taxes and everything. Why add one more? Do I agree? Maybe I think we should ban them and buy those reusable bags, but not pay the money for the plastic bags. That's where I stand in that situation.
I know it was defeated, but I know it might come back at some other point with in a different form, and how that's going to affect the small business in town, which is the lifeblood of our community. So
Right.
I
I happen to be somewhat in favor of charging customers for taking a checkout bag. I've seen it work in other countries and other communities in the country, and mostly in encouraging people to just either not take a bag or to use a reusable bag. And while we are talking about banning the single-use plastic checkout bags, as one of the 5 on the township committee, I happen to be in favor of a small surcharge because I don't see it as a burden for people, because it's not something that's absolutely necessary that you should be charged if you buy.
You can always bring your own bag.
Yes,
You can
exactly.
avoid it.
Right, you can avoid it by bringing, you can, I know people disagree. We had a very active discussion last time, it was discussed at the township committee, but I've seen it work. I've seen it work in Colorado where my son lives. I've seen it work in Europe where it's it's 5 cents, or you don't take a bag, or you bring your own.
Well, I think the follow-up question to that is, with small businesses and the holidays coming up, people give not the plastic bags but the paper bags as well as a gift bag, and we have a lot of small businesses that do that. So charging that, and again, we're not Colorado or other places, we're Maplewood. So are we looking at that as something that might affect the small businesses?
I think when we started talking about it, we took it off. We voted it down because we wanted to do more amendments to the ordinance. One of them would probably be gift bags as being an exception for, when you have somebody who want this wrapped and they put it in a bag, that they wouldn't be charged the extra.
Thank you for explaining.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question.
Okay.
Carol, yes. Is there any discussion about the containers that people get when they take leftovers from the restaurants? Because we were in another town where at least those containers at this particular place were brown cardboard little containers. And around here we tend to get these plastic takeouts, which are very nice, but they're not good for the environment. Is there any discussion about that?
Well, one thing is the paper or the cardboard is actually, from what I've seen, much less likely to be reused than people who often are able to reuse the plastic. The plastic is also able to be cleaned and be recycled.
Styrofoam too.
Right, and the styrofoam is not recyclable, and usually the cardboard actually, although it starts recyclable, it gets food all over it, it gets dirty, and then it's not recyclable, or at least, you know, the recycling carriers that we have won't take it. So it's certainly going to be a transition and a learning curve for us and for our local businesses, including our restaurants and takeout establishments, to figure out, you know, what is the best way to serve what customers need, because we're not looking to put our business at a competitive disadvantage against surrounding communities, but also do things with, you know, with their business, and particularly their takeout containers, that will be sustainable. And I think giving them something that they, you know, can reuse or recycle is probably better than giving them something that they're almost certainly not going to reuse, and in any event can't recycle.
Any other questions? Okay, Bert?
And I'll ask all three of you. I know we talked about the recycling already. Is there anything that can be done in any way whatsoever? At least I'd like to see the number 5 plastics, because of things like the yogurt cups, if there's any like alternatives that can be found to like recycling. I think there may be a few places that do take them, but I just was wondering, at least, even if not the other besides 1, 2, at least if the 5s would really be a huge help.
Yeah, I didn't realize my mic was on. I talk loud enough anyway. I know Whole Foods takes number 5s, so I happen to have a bag hanging that I put the number 5s in at home, but unfortunately Maplewood can't take those any longer, and it'll be mandated in most municipalities in a very short time period. So I wish it was an easier solution for it. And to the takeout containers, we're looking at all of those. Styrofoam's obviously bad. We already have an ordinance against that, and I think it's something we might need to start looking at enforcing. Right. So yeah, there's so many different ones. At least the thin cardboard ones, if they get dirty, they will decompose, as opposed to the plastic ones or the clamshells. So yeah.
Could you be specific about what are the number 5?
Things like the deli containers, like you get at the deli, with, you know, the clear sort of clear plastic. That, and most of the time, I think most of us reuse them for a while anyway, but they're not. That's number 5.
I think the
yogurt containers,
yeah.
Possibly sour cream containers, things like that, that we used to recycle. Yeah.
Yes.
So this summer there were 2 speed bumps added to Rutgers Street.
Humps.
Humps.
Well, bumps are bigger.
You say
than
either, I say either.
No, they're 2 different things.
Okay, all
legitimately.
right. I stand corrected. Anyway, they were added to Rutgers between Springfield and Burnett. And there was also talk of doing some traffic calming measures on Burnett, which is a disaster. And I thought that was happening this summer. It didn't. So can you give us an update on what's going on with Burnett, and what kind of a timeline are we talking about to see some changes there?
Sure. We have, we're expecting a final report from NB5, who did traffic calming study for us. We got done through DCA for free, which was great. And a lot of the improvements that they recommend on Burnett in particular will cost a considerable amount of money, so we'll have to budget for them for next year. It's not in the budget for this year. So we'll probably go in steps, and our engineer will recommend which ones would be the most effective in the shorter term, and then probably it'll be stages that things happen there. As I think Greg alluded to, the speed change from coming from Union into Maplewood.
Right.
And we are doing more enforcement on Burnett. The Rutgers speed humps were put in. We were going to put 3, but then we did a study at the intersection of Lexington, I think. Is it Lexington? Yeah.
Yep.
Lexington and
That's going to be a
Rutgers.
4-way stop.
That's going to be a 4-way. It qualifies for a 4-way stop.
Right.
There's, you know, it has to have certain traffic, equal traffic, and things like that. It's not typically used stop signs for traffic calming. It has to merit a certain level of need.
Right.
So Rutgers, we had speeds of up to like 60 miles an hour on Rutgers.
Yes, right.
and even higher on Burnett. So, yeah, we're definitely looking at it, and I think that the study we had done was very, very helpful.
And I'll just add on Burnett, one of the issues we have, as I mentioned earlier, is that you're coming from Union Township and also Union County, and in my understanding is that
It goes
further
from 40 to 25.
further 40 to 25, and not a lot of people are going 40.
Right.
And one of the things we'd like to do is work with Union to reduce this, get them to reduce the speed limit there, at least before you get to the Maplewood line. But it's actually on the Union County side. It's a Union County road, so we actually have to go through the freeholders. And Mayor DeLuca, who just walked in a few minutes ago, I know is working with the Union County freeholders to see if we may be able to get some movement from Union County on that. But obviously that's a complicating factor. But in the meantime, obviously Nancy, who chairs the engineering committee, is on top of some of the engineering work we're doing, and on public safety, working with our police to do enforcement. And Burnett is definitely a place where, in addition to having patrols and radar details, they've also, you may have seen, they put up the speed sign sort of to let people know to slow down and also give their speed. And what happens there is not only is it giving you their speed, but we're also collecting data to see, whether to share that with Union, to guide our own efforts. But that's part of an ongoing traffic study we have sort of throughout the Hilton neighborhood that for example, led to the humps on Rutgers.
What, just as a follow-up, Mayor DeLuca in the spring, when he spoke at the meeting, mentioned that the stoplights along Springfield Avenue were going to be recalibrated this summer.
Yes.
Did that actually happen?
It hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened yet.
I didn't think so.
We just got the, no. I think you'll notice.
It was
when does
rhetorical.
happen. I think, I brought
So
that.
what's the schedule for that?
The county has to do it, and I think they're going to do it. We've been told soon. I don't.
We'll be getting the report on Friday.
Okay.
The final report. I believe that's the final report we're getting Friday. I don't know. We get so many reports. Sometimes I forget which one. But I brought that up at engineering in early spring because I was worried about traffic diverting into the Hilton and College Hill neighborhoods because it was getting so frustrating to drive on Springfield Avenue. And we never knew the timing of the lights was off. And the study that we did showed indeed it was just a nightmare trouble of no sense. Like sometimes you could drive down without catching a single light, and other times you're catching every light more than once.
So do you anticipate that that'll be done before year end?
I hope so, but it's really on the county to do it, and that way it won't cost us anything.
Gotcha.
But it's not a big expensive fix anyway. It's about $1,000 per light per signal to install the GPS timing thing that has not been there all this time. So.
And the county has told us it'll be relevant once they get to it, which should be soon. It's not going to be a long project. It should take them a matter of hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they have to come out here and actually find those hours.
Right.
But yay.
Anybody else have a question?
I just wondering, with all the digging up there on Springfield Avenue and also on the Maplewood part of Milburn Avenue, what's been going on? It looks like PSC&G's been out there. I'm just wondering what's all this digging that's been going on, like in several parts for several weeks.
Yeah, I don't really know what they're doing, but PSC&G isn't always very forthcoming with telling us what they're doing. They just kind of, as any engineer in any town nearby will tell you, they just show up whenever they want sometimes. But I assume they're working on, I don't know if they're working on gas or electric, but I really don't know what they're doing.
Creates havoc with the traffic, particularly during rush hour.
It also creates havoc with the road repair after they're done and they close it back up.
And it also creates havoc because they don't necessarily tell our police department when they're coming, and suddenly a road that we thought was open, needs to be closed and traffic diverted. And people, it's frustrating for residents who signed up for Nixle alerts and for other email alerts, specifically so they can find out when there's going to be road work or when there's going to be closures or diversions, and then they don't find out about it And then the police are getting complaints about how come this road is closed and no one told me, and they said they didn't tell us either. So that's an ongoing frustration with PSE&G that we would love to improve, and we have worked with them a little bit to try to improve the communication and coordination, but it hasn't. There's a long way to go.
Anybody else? I have another question. We usually ask this when we have questions, and it was mentioned, some new developments were mentioned that I wasn't even aware of. What is your general feeling about development in the Hilton area and Springfield Avenue? Do you think we should just be open, or do we not have any control, or do you think it's good? I heard you say that, well, it's better than an empty lot, but is it
In that
really,
particular
how about a little park or something like that? I just feel like we're turning into, and I'd like everyone to respond.
Ileana, do you want to go first?
Oh, why not? Do something with my little cards. That's a very interesting question, because when I was getting signatures to file, most people concerned was about developments. That was brought up all the time. Are we doing too much, or what's like, is it taking the charm? Like, we're giving so many pilots, blah, blah, blah. I do think we should take it close, make a stop momentarily and make a close view of what's really going on. I think we have to approach it better, and to see how we see Hilton and Springfield in the future, what we are hoping, not just build just to build. So I would like to take a good look and sit down and take a look and see what's our vision with that before we start popping up more buildings. I would want to hold it for a while, but that's where I stand.
Well, we do have a vision right now. When the post office was developed, the Village Alliance asked us, and we agreed to have a visioning of what we want Maplewood Village to be like. We need, there is opportunity for other building, and we wanted to make sure that we had a vision for Maplewood Village, and so we're working on that. With regard to Springfield Avenue and Irvington Avenue and other areas, there are needs. We've been talking about it as to
the neighborhood,
right, and talking about what the reality is that we are growing as a suburb. The suburb, we are getting more populated, we are getting more popular, and there's a need, sort of the way cities have grown. The population is growing, and more people want to move to these close to New York City suburbs. So we talk long and hard about any project that comes before us. We talk to developers coming in, whether it's for somebody who wants to do a subdivision on a lot and build 2 multifamily houses next to each other, to larger redevelopment projects. And it's not something that we take lightly at all. So both in the Economic Development Committee, on the Township Committee, and in the Planning Board, these get vetted and there's only so much we can do legally. If something's zoned for something, sometimes you can't really control, so we try to be proactive with what we permit and talking with the developer or with the property owner, and to see what can best be built there as opposed to not being involved at all. So it's a constant conversation, and it can come up at any time with an owner of a property.
Carol, if I can just briefly add to what Nancy said, I actually tend to think we have reached a saturation point in terms of market rate, high density apartment housing on Springfield Avenue and in the Hilton neighborhood. We've seen a lot of growth in the last couple of years, and some pretty big facilities that have gone up. What I am excited about potentially coming to this area is a proposed facility on Boyden Avenue that would provide senior housing and assisted living and adult care facilities, and a substantial portion of that would be available to Medicaid and Medicare. I think that's great because we want seniors to be able to, if they can't remain in their homes, to be able to relocate to suitable housing within Maplewood, particularly affordable housing, and that they be able to continue to stay in and enjoy as seniors the community that they've lived in and they've helped to build.
Kind of you answered my question to a certain extent. I was going to bring up the point as far as the apartment houses, these huge apartment complexes. One on the Boyd and Wright off Springfield, the one that's near the pool, a small plot of land. These are multiple units, but obviously their goal is to be eventually all filled.
Mm-hmm.
So on a relatively small lot of thing, you're going to have a lot of families coming, which is great. I've heard rumors, but how do we go about, how about getting the tax revenue that would pay for the resources to take care of everybody's needs? And on a lot of land where maybe there was 3 houses, now we have these huge apartment buildings that could have 30 units, 40 units, whatever it may be.
Well, in most situations, with Avalon Bay sort of being an exception because there was a pilot for Avalon Bay, but in most cases, we're getting full taxes from these buildings, and while the land tax doesn't necessarily change, the improvement tax, if you're building, if there's just a single-family house or a multifamily house there versus an apartment building, the value is considerably higher in the tax revenue.
How about kids coming into the school district?
I think that's, given where our enrollment has been and the spikes we've seen recently, I think that's definitely a concern. The studies from Rutgers and other institutions have shown that in communities like this that you actually don't add that many school-age children in the apartments. I think it's probably
a risk, isn't it?
It certainly is. It certainly is. It certainly is a risk, and it's certainly a non-zero number. But
close to zero though.
But what we're seeing, the increase in enrollment has not really been fueled by these high-density apartment housing. It's been fueled by people whose kids have graduated and moved on from the school district, selling their houses, and then new families coming in. And the degree of turnover, we've seen years where 15 to 20% of the housing stock in Maplewood is turned over in 1 year.
That is a normal turnover. It has been for, a house gets sold, hopefully, young families coming, the community keeps growing and going on. But I'm just asking as far as where you have maybe 8 kids at a block, going to school, and they're serving, proper education. The education has to be paid for. You may have 100 kids coming out of the same property, but the property tax out of that property is not. Someone's got to pay for that. You understand what I'm saying?
I don't think that data supports that there are a lot of children coming into the multi-unit.
But there can in the future. You can't. That's the point.
Well,
But they're only 2 bedrooms.
they're usually 1 or 2 bedrooms, except for the affordable units, except for the affordable units that we go actively in every development we talk about. We talk about the requirement of the builder to put affordable housing in there as well, and they're required to put at least 1 3-bedroom, depending on the size of the development project, right? So the reality is mostly what you're getting in these apartments, and in apartments and redevelopment projects all over New Jersey have proven it out, that you might have 1 or 2 school children, and typically what happens is you have people who are coming from Manhattan or Brooklyn or wherever they're coming from, and they're renting an apartment for a year. I think Deputy Mayor McGehee did that, if I remember correctly from when we first met, right? Lived in one of those apartment buildings for a year while looking in the area for a house to buy, and then put their family in.
You understand, right? Just that
There's also the divorce.
Went up so quick.
Yeah.
Even one across here, they went up within 4 or 5 years. It happened so quick. It was little culture shock to me.
Yeah.
But thank you.
It takes getting used to, I'm sure. But yeah, a lot of it is also if you see kids in some of these, they're separated parents and they stay in the same, they want to stay in the same
I
town.
just said I want to make sure that we
Yeah.
have the revenue to see that all the kids get the proper education.
Right, and it does increase our tax revenue greatly over a single-use house.
Okay, I think we have time, well, we have two more questions. This woman,
This is actually for Nancy.
you stand up so we can hear you.
I don't want to stand.
Okay, so speak on it.
This question's for Nancy. We have a mutual friend, and she told me that something you've done in the past for Maplewood, and which is the bricks. This is a language type of question. The brickwork on Springfield Avenue, and she said you were responsible for getting that.
Oh, no, I wouldn't take credit for
And
that.
you fought really hard.
I fought really hard for something to happen on Springfield Avenue. It would, for many months and weeks, the very, very beginning, there were about 4 of us or 5 of us who would don some rubber gloves and go up every Saturday morning at 8:30 and pick up cigarette butts and clean graffiti and kind of, it's back when I first met Carol and just trying to get the township, which was then Mayor Grassmere was mayor, to pay attention to Springfield Avenue because I couldn't understand why nothing was happening there. So, and that kind of grew, and then my next door neighbor and I went to the Economic Development Committee meetings every month and kept asking the chair bank promoter, like, what's happening on Springfield Avenue, and it was really not functioning very well. And then after a year of that, they put us on the Economic Development Committee. And then, be careful what you wish for. So it's just sort of, then we felt like we needed some public pressure on the governing body to pay attention to the avenue, so we formed College Hill Neighborhood Association back before emails and computers by going door to door with flyers and talking to people. And then we partnered with the Hilton Neighborhood Association and founded the Springfield Avenue Partnership. And that was, over the course of several years, then we asked the governing body for a consult. So I won't take credit for the bricks, but I will take credit for generating the activism of the neighborhoods to get something done. And that just shows what, when you want to do something in town, you see a problem, you can work and get your fellow residents to help you fix it, and eventually, yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
One more question.
So it just occurred to me listening to the prior conversation. It struck me that I heard that conversation about the push and pull and the priorities around development and the impact on schools and all of that. I've heard it at these candidate forums consistently for the last 3 or 4 that I've attended, 3 or 4 years. But I don't hear it happening anywhere else. In other words, I would argue this is probably the most public forum that discussion happens. What our priorities are as a township for land use. And on all these questions, many of which are very technical and the typical audience isn't fully informed. They just have a sense as to what they like and don't like. I would ask each of you, would you support an open community forum at that high level to discuss these issues outside of the election cycle?
Absolutely.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing it right now with, at least for Maplewood Village Visioning Project.
You are, but that was only an open discussion because 3 members of the township committee were there. There was no widespread advertisement about
No,
that.
I disagree. I disagree.
No, there was no advertisement of, the only meeting I'm aware of that occurred large scale was at the library. And it was initially by invitation, I heard it word of mouth. It wasn't published anywhere. So I think that's an excellent example.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue we should spend money on it. I'm a little concerned that we went the cheap route and, being provided through Trenton at no charge is great. It's a good place to start. But the task is complex, particularly if you do it town-wide. I think South Orange has a sizable budget in looking at their master plan review, which maybe is even more comprehensive. But yeah, I think it'd be really good to have these open discussions on these topics on a continuing basis.
Yeah, and I'm a big supporter. One of the things that I want is more transparency and more opportunity for public participation. If the community wants their voices heard, I don't think the Township Committee is looking to limit or in any way restrict the ways in which we get those opinions. And one of the things that I'm proud of is that over the last years we have had some of these community forums. For example, for the first time, certainly since I've lived here, there was a community forum to meet the two final candidates for Chief of Police and for the community to ask questions and give feedback. And I think that was a really successful event, and I would like to do more of that. I think that when we find issues, for example, just a few months ago we had a big forum in the Woodland about the proposal to make part of Maplewood Avenue one way, and the public came out, and I got to tell you, it was really useful. I think they raised a lot of issues and concerns that caused us and our engineers to have to go back to the drawing board. So I think that can be really useful. We have a lot of very smart, engaged people in Maplewood, and bringing them into the process, I think, is crucial and can be really, really valuable to not only to the town, but to us as elected officials, to get that feedback in a community forum and not just on a message board somewhere.
Yeah, and I'll just add quickly, as I walked in the door, you were commenting about advisory committees. And I came with the thought in my head that over the last several years, I've pointed out to people that what seemed like the demise of the word advisory in our processes. And I would compliment Nancy and Greg in particular, because you guys have been on the committee for the last several years. There are 3 or 4 new advisory committees where the word is right there in the committee title. I think that's great.
Okay.
One last related thing. No, Nancy referred to volunteering, which really moved Springfield Avenue partnership into existence. Well, our neighborhood association has been active in a garden which is on Prospect between Springfield Avenue and Hilton Avenue. That parking lot was built many years ago. It became atrocious with garbage, weeds, not being cleaned, not by the Department of Public Works or anybody. So we took it upon ourselves to get out there. There are about 5, 8 people in this room tonight who have gotten poison ivy to sore backs and sore knees from working on that garden. The biggest insult of all in the past month has been 5 stolen plants that we put into the ground. Somebody's stealing them for their own garden or something. That's an insult. But keep your eyes on it. Whatever you can do to help continue what's been started there, we all would appreciate.
Yeah.
That goes for other areas. I have a woman coming through my neighborhood about once a week. She picks up all the garbage, if there is any. She ties my newspapers together and puts them on my porch for me. What's her name? Isabel?
She doesn't even live in Maplewood, I don't think.
That's right. She lives in
Union.
Yeah,
We gave her a gift certificate.
She's fantastic, But that volunteer. No, she doesn't want it. Yeah.
She walks up her neck and
Yeah.
thanks sweetheart, and she asked me not to be recognized, because I wanted to recognize her. But the words that she said was, this is our community.
Yes.
Right.
It is our
Good for her. Beautiful.
Okay, that was a good point, James. So I want to thank everyone for coming, and I want to thank everyone here. And one person who's on the go. And so we want to thank all of you for your information.
Thank you.